The iPhone 6 when released became the most popular iPhone and was considered a major upgrade, but when the iPhone 6S was released, it was considered a minor upgrade and was actually the least popular iPhone. So I decided to compare the upgrades to see why. iPhone 6 is much bigger than the previous iPhone 5S. The dimensions have increased from 123.8 by 58.6 by 7.6 millimeters to 138.1 by 67 by 6.9 millimeters. It's gotten thinner, but it has also gotten taller and wider. The iPhone 6S has a slight increase, going up to 138.3 millimeters by 67.1 millimeters by 7.1 millimeters, but it's not noticeable. There's also an increase in weight across all of these, going from 112 grams to 129 grams to 143 grams. The iPhone 6 has a curved design compared to the iPhone 5S, which does not have a curved design. The glass on the front curves onto the sides, and the back is fully aluminum. There are no sharp edges like on the 5S. The camera now protrudes. I've noticed that the display is much glossier. The front glass is much glossier than on the iPhone 5S. And the sleep-wake button has been moved from the top to the side. Although there are problems with this design being too slippery, easy to slip out of your hand, the aluminum was too soft. The aluminum in the iPhone 6S is harder, 7,000 aluminum. There is also a problem with the iPhone 6 Plus bending, although this is a regular iPhone 6. It has some problems with bending, but this was more on the iPhone 6 Plus. The iPhone 6S increased in durability a lot, but the iPhone 6 was the one that introduced the new looks. The main feature in the iPhone 6 is the much bigger display than in the iPhone 5S. It has increased from 4 inches to a 4.7-inch display. It has also increased in resolution, since it increased in size, but kept the pixels per inch the same, 750 by 1334 compared to 640 by 1136 in the iPhone 5S. It has increased in contrast ratio from 800 to 1 to 1400 to 1, and degrading in quality when looking at it from different angles in the iPhone 6 than there was on the iPhone 5S, and this is due to dual domain pixels for wide-angle viewing. Although the camera in the iPhone 6 is better than the one in the 5S, introducing focus pixels and doubling the frame rates from 30 frames per second to 60 frames per second in 1080p and 120 frames per second to 240 frames per second in 720p. The iPhone 6S also really introduces more changes in the camera. Ever since the iPhone 4S, Apple has stopped increasing the pixels on the camera, but the iPhone 6S begins increasing the pixels again, going from an 8 megapixel camera to a 12 megapixel camera, and also from 1080p to 4K video. The iPhone 6S also introduces live photos. It moves for 2.5 seconds and is at the 12 megapixel. The iPhone 6S has also doubled frames per second for the 1080p from 60 frames per second to 120 frames per second, allowing us to do slow motion in 1080p on the iPhone 6S. iPhone 6 introduces burst photography on the front-facing camera, so you can 10 selfies in 1 second, although the iPhone 6S quadruples the resolution from 1.2 megapixels to 5 megapixels. The display on the iPhone 6S can also become much brighter than on the iPhone 6, allowing it to act as a flash for the front-facing camera. The iPhone 6 introduces the Apple A8 chip inside, which increases the speed from the A7 chip in the iPhone 5S, but the CPU by 25% and the GPU by 50%. Although the Apple A9 chip increases the CPU 70% and the GPU 90%. It also introduces an embedded motion coprocessor, allowing it to be always on, which allows the new raise to wake feature in iOS 10. The Apple A7 and A8 both have 1 gigabyte of RAM, but the Apple A9 chip has 2 gigabytes of RAM. the speed from 1.3 gigahertz to 1.4 gigahertz to 1.85 gigahertz. Battery life has improved on the iPhone 6, but stayed the same with the iPhone 6s. It has increased from 40 hours to 50 hours with audio on the iPhone 6, 10 hours to 11 hours on video, the iPhone 6, 10 hours to 14 hours with 3G talk time, 8 hours to 10 hours, 3G browsing. It stayed the same with LTE browsing at 10 hours, improved from 10 hours to 11 hours on Wi-Fi browsing, and from 10 days to 11 days on standby. The iPhone 6 has VoLTE, or Voice over LTE. It allows for much higher quality phone calls, since you can make them over your LTE network. It also will connect quicker. The iPhone 6s introduces LTE Advanced, which is better for LTE browsing. It will increase your browsing speed by 2 to 3 times in the real world. The iPhone 6 has the new feature of Apple Pay, allowing you to use your phone as a credit card. The iPhone 6s introduces 3D Touch, which changes the way you interact with your phone. Unfortunately, I don't have an iPhone 6s, so I cannot demonstrate it. It also has second generation Touch ID, although the iPhone 6 also has an improvement to Touch ID. The iPhone 6 has improvements in the design, display, battery, VoLTE, and Apple Pay, although the iPhone 6s has a better processor, better camera, advanced LTE, and 3D Touch with haptic feedback. So it's really a matter of opinion which one is better, but they are clearly both the same size of changes. So the iPhone 6s is not a minor update. Either that or the iPhone 6 and 6s are both minor updates.